What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney, and listen, we are getting back to the XFL. If it's your first time here, hey, glad to have you. If you're a return viewer, thanks for coming back and thanks for watching more videos. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. And remember, we have a giveaway that's going on right now, and I will put a link in the description to that video. You need if you want to be part of the giveaway, I shouldn't just assume that. But if you would like to be part of the giveaway, here's what's going on. So I'm going to give away your choice of either an XFL t-shirt or an XFL hat to the winner. And what you need to do to be part of the giveaway, to be entered into the giveaway, all you need to do is you need to go to the video down in the description, my thank you video, and you need to leave a comment there and make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. If you do those two things before March 1st, you're entered into the contest. And remember that for every 500 subscribers we add, I'll add on another giveaway. So right now we're at a little over 1,000. Thank you guys very much. And so that'll be one giveaway. If we get to 2,000, that would be like 3 giveaways. So, hey, let's shoot for the sky and see where we can get. And remember, if you go ahead and invite somebody to subscribe or tell them about the channel, you're really kind of just helping yourself out if you think about it, because that just gives you one more shot. If we get over 500, if we get over 2,000, or hey, whatever, the sky's the limit. It gives you just one more shot there to go ahead and hopefully be a winner. So yeah, definitely do that. We've got that going on. All right, let's not waste any more time here today. Let's go ahead and let's get into some XFL news, because I know that that's what you guys are here for. And listen, it's looking great for the XFL right now. I'm pretty excited about what's going on with the XFL. News is coming out. We're getting getting all this information. First off, betting is going great. Gambling is going great for the XFL. DraftKings and FanDuel are saying that they're doing a fantastic job, and that things are just up and up and up for them. That each week it's been growing for them with the XFL. That's looking good. With it, FanDuel's even saying that they're somewhere around, it's been about a 45% increase week over week. And so, hey, that's good numbers. If you guys, know this, if you can get Vegas involved with this and that's going to be that's huge staying power there, especially if if you start getting these gambling sites and getting Vegas and them involved in that, and they're really starting to profit off of the XFL. That's huge. And remember, they were saying that the first weekend of the XFL, the betting was like a weekend of like a big-time UFC fight. So if you take that into consideration and it's continuing to grow, that's a big, big deal there. So that's a huge deal. Looking good there. That's a good thing for the XFL. Now let's move on to the TV ratings. And we've been waiting a few days, and a lot of it's because of the holidays. And listen, the ratings came out, and they're pretty decent. Now, there was a drop-off from the first week, and if you ask me, I don't necessarily know if the drop-off is specifically because there's usually a drop-off in the second week and that's usually telling. But these numbers are actually fairly decent. If you consider this weekend, we had all of the NBA All-Star festivities this weekend. You had all of the stuff going on with the Daytona 500. Now, I think that they might have benefited a little bit with the Daytona 500 being rained out on Sunday. But when you look at it, having those two things going on and pulling from them, they still pretty much outperformed just about everything else on TV. Really, the only other thing I think was the Michigan-Indiana game on Sunday afternoon that really did better than the XFL. Outside of that, the XFL did fantastic. Let's go ahead and let's look at these numbers. So the New York-DC game, which was at 2 p.m., that was on ABC. 2.1 million viewers. Now, that was down 35% from the same time slot the week before. Down 35%. Not too bad. But still over 2 million. That's pretty dang good. Granted, none of these are NFL numbers. I get that. But none of the other sports are pulling that either. So, take that into consideration with that. Tampa Bay, Seattle, 2.3 million viewers, and that one had a 21% drop off. Then let's look at the Sunday games. Now, Dallas and Los Angeles, the Sunday 2 p.m. game on ABC was a 2.39, so almost 2.4. And that was 29% down from the week prior. And then the evening game on FS1. Now, remember, this was not on Fox. This was not on the Fox, regular station network. This was on Fox FS1. So we're not even talking like ESPN. This is down 45%, only 45%. But here's the difference. The game the week before was on ESPN. So you're going from ESPN to FS1, which is a much, much smaller channel. And remember, to get usually ESPN, if you have a cable package, you get ESPN. If you don't have a cable package, well, at least here in the United States, if you have a cable package, you get ESPN here in the United States. You have to get extra packages and pay more for FS1. So for them to pull a 1.3 on FS1 is huge. And the sad thing about it is that was the best game of the week. That was a fantastic game. That was a blockbuster game. That was a heavyweight duel. That was a heavyweight fight. And if people didn't get to tune into that game, that I feel sorry for, because they missed out on some really, really good football. And all those naysayers, I'm going to talk about you later because I'm just fired up about that. You can't tell me that that's not good football. What we saw on that field on Sunday night that got a 1.3 on FS1, was one heck of a football game. That was football to a T, and it was only down 45%. So when we look at this, these numbers are huge for the XFL. This is a big deal for the XFL, and I think that it just shows that people like the XFL. XFL's doing just fine right now. Now, let's go ahead and let's move on over to some other news. And boy, if I am the CFL, I am starting to shake in my boots, because the fact of the matter is now the XFL is starting to literally poach your players. What do I mean by this? Well, first off, we've got S.J. Green, who was the first one to leave, and he's pretty much a legend. He's a wide receiver legend in the CFL. He signed with the XFL, and actually this week, it's a very, very good thing for them. And let's just make a side note here. So he was traded this week to Tampa Bay Vipers. The Vipers need another good wide receiver. They need another guy there with Truesdale. And company. I really think that that having him, I think, will be a big help there in Tampa. I think Williams played good the first game. They were a mess this past game, but give Erin Murray another target there. I think that that's really, really good there. So for him to get traded to Tampa Bay, I think that that's a huge deal, and hopefully he can be like Johnson. Johnson, he got traded from L.A., went to DC and had a huge impact. He wasn't even there one day and he recorded 1.5 sacks. So hopefully maybe S.J. Green can kind of get in there and hopefully get into the game for them. I think that would be huge for Tampa Bay there. But moving on now, so that's one signing. Now they've got two other signees, big signees, and both of these guys are going to Team 9. And so I don't know if they're going to go to Team 9 and then be allocated to other teams, because right now you've got Derek Dennis, who is a former most outstanding offensive lineman in the CFL. And he was named an All-Star in 2016, 2018, and 2019. So this guy's a CFL All-Star that they just picked up, offensive lineman. And they also signed CFL wide receiver Armanti Edwards. He's a veteran, kind of a guy that's been around the league a while, kind of knows what he's doing, a veteran guy who's signed with the XFL as well. Both of those guys are on Team 9 right now. But Derek Dennis is going to get picked up by one of these teams. With these teams having these linemen going down, especially New York, having two linemen down in that game was really huge for them. And it's all, listen, DC probably would have won the game regardless, but their offensive line was terrible. And when you're missing two of your starters off the offensive line this early in the season, that's what it's going to look like, if you just ask me. So, as I'm looking at this, this is a big deal for the XFL, and the CFL should start to take notice of this, because if these veteran guys are starting now to sign with the XFL, this could really open things up for the XFL to start really poaching talent off of the CFL, which I think that they can do, and I think that probably will happen here going forward. Now, granted, we're in the middle of the season, so how much of an impact that's going to have right now, I don't know, and here coming up in a few months, the CFL season will be starting, so we'll see what all transpires with that, to where these guys might go back and play some CFL ball too, and that I don't know, but for the XFL to be enticing enough for these veteran players to sign with them, that is a big deal to me. So let's go ahead and let's just get to it. Let's just talk about it right now. I'm just a little fired up, and you know what? I'm just going to go with it. The fact of the matter is I had video all lined up. We're going to go ahead and we were going to break down Erin Murray, right? I was going to break down and I was going to show you the issues that I think are with Erin Murray and why he needs to sit the bench and why they need to bring in Quentin Flowers. And listen, I think Quentin Flowers should have been given a little bit more last Saturday. The interception, it was a bad decision to throw on his part. He needs to get that ball up in the air, the one where the guy with Frazier caught it for a touchdown. That's besides the fact. But the thing is, and here's the thing why I'm frustrated, right? So I go ahead and I put a page and a half of pretty much stuff together, and I'm not even going to stink and use it, because I'm watching. So I've been, since Monday, Tuesday, today's now Wednesday. I've been watching all these shows, listening to all these shows, and they're talking about the XFL, and they're talking about the quarterback play and how the quarterback play needs to get better and all of that. And that just drives me absolutely batty. Because for more than one reason, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get into it. But the thing that's got me all stinking frustrated about this is the fact of the matter is here I am. Now I feel like, okay, got a guy, Erin Murray, and I've been talking for months that I'm not a huge Erin Murray fan, and he's been proving why I'm not an Erin Murray fan. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to try to break him down and break down Brandon Silvers and try to figure these out and tell you what I think that they need to do improve and what the issues are with their game. But I can't do that. And I feel like that now I've got to sit here, I've got to defend them against all of these major, sports pundits and all these people out there who think that the XFL needs better quarterback play. Don't get me wrong. Listen, I've been watching the games. And listen, I have been. Most of you guys who are talking about the XFL, well, I've tuned in for a little bit. Listen, I've watched every single second of every game of the XFL. I've even watched some games multiple times to get information. I've definitely watched multiple highlights for this channel to do this stuff. I know what's happening in the XFL. I know that you're not really tuning into the XFL. A lot of you guys, you saw the clip from Matt Mcgowan last week, him get all fiery and hot and what he said, and then now you're taking that, looking at his stats, what he did, how terrible he played, and now applying that to the league. You look at the stats, you look at the stuff that happened, and now you're saying, okay, the only guys they've got are Cardale Jones, which he's a guy we knew should be in the NFL anyways, blah, 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 blah. And then PJ Walker, who really is just a guy who can kind of run around the field, no big deal. And you only got two guys, and they need to step up their quarterback play, and that's why the ratings were down this week, and that's why the list goes on and on and on. And good night. I've watched show after show after show go and talk about the XFL, and the fact of the matter is that there are just a couple things that drive me absolutely batty about this whole stupid thing. First and foremost, if you're going to talk about something, at least watch some of it. Good night. There are guys out there who are national pundit guys, I don't know what you want to call yourself, a commentator, if you want to call yourself a journalist, I don't care. I call myself a guy talking on YouTube, and I've watched more about it than you have, and you're on a national show, and some of you guys are admitting you haven't even watched any of it. And see, that's the arrogance of it to me, is the fact of the matter is you're going to talk about something, you're going to bash it, you're going to say how it's not good, and how it's, not, well, obviously these guys are guys who can't get in the NFL and blah, blah, blah. And you're going to explain all of this stuff and do all this thing, and you haven't even put any time or energy into it and any research. Why in the world am I going to take your advice off of that? You don't know what you're talking about. And some of you guys, I've tuned into a little bit. Well, did you tune in last Sunday night when we had two excellent quarterbacks battling it out in that game? No, you didn't. And most of, everybody else didn't either. When you've got 1.3 million people tuning into the best game of XFL we've seen this thus far, and in a really, really good football game. I'm a guy who's watched a lot of football. It's a really, really good football game. But when I'm sitting here and these guys are so arrogant about what they're saying or what they're not saying, and the fact of the matter is the XFL is the hottest thing right now in sports, and half of you guys are ticked off and mad because you have to cover it and you're not getting anything for it. Your network doesn't have the rights to it, or your show has to cover this lower league, and it's the hottest thing that's out there right now, and you think that it's beneath you. And so the funny thing is that you have to talk about it now because it's the hottest thing out there. That's what people are watching, so you have to cover it on your show. But the fact of the matter is you don't pay attention to it. So now you've got to put something together that makes you feel good, that makes you show that, you kind of know what you're talking about when you watch diddly squat nothing of it. And so you're going to come out here and put these things together. So first and foremost, we're talking about, they need to get quarterback play, and they need to they need to pick up, better quarterbacks than that with it. Well, first off, you haven't watched any of it. And if you look at it, you've got Cardell Jones, who's been playing fantastic. You have PJ Walker, who's playing fantastic. Jordan Ta'amau, the fact of the matter is there's a couple of situational things in that game. The guy's throwing 80% passing. He's completed 80% of his passes. Tell me a quarterback in the NFL that does that. There aren't any guys. And he played against a good defense. And I'm not trying to compare all this stuff to the NFL. But if you take away the two interceptions, okay, the first one, the ball gets tipped. It's intercepted. So it's not really his fault on the interception. The second one is he thinks that it's a free play, so he just throws the ball up. That's what he says afterwards, because the guy was offsides, and literally the player was offsides. Now, granted, the refs have to call it, and you have to pay attention to that. So he just kind of threw that ball up, and those were the two mistakes that he made in the game. He's good. Let's go to the early game on Sunday. You've got a quarterback rating of over 90 for Josh Johnson. Now, granted, he didn't have big astronomical numbers, but the man had a really good completion rating. The guy played well, looked good, didn't make any mistakes, didn't throw any interceptions, over a 90% passer rating, and had a touchdown. Played very good ball. Now, that's four guys. Now let's go to Landry Jones. Landry Jones had over 300 yards passing, 305 yards passing, okay? So he threw 2 picks in the first half. The guy hasn't played any football. This is the first football he's played in a while. And the fact of the matter is he got hurt on the very first play of practice on the very first day. So this guy is working on very, very little. Once he got going, he looked really nice, looked really good. He's going to be just fine in the league. Listen, that's your number 5 guy. And then from there, if you're looking at it, that's 5/8 of the league. That's over half of the league of guys that are going to look good. Matt Mcgowan looked okay the first week. He looked terrible the second week. But in that, I'm also saying the guy had terrible O-line, and his O-line, half of them were down. Now, this is where it comes in because he's the guy that made the big statement, and he's the guy that made all the statements and all this stuff. And the fact of the matter is you played terrible. Regardless of your line, you played terrible, and then you're blaming it on everyone else. You can't do that, especially in this world. In this world of professional football, this is not NASCAR where they put a mic in your faces. This is football. They're not used to a mic in people's face. And so when people get real on a mic in football, that's a no-no. You're not supposed to do that. And so when they get the sound bites of that takes these guys and gives them opportunity to completely blow things up. And so now I'm going to continue walking down the line. You got a guy like Brandon Silvers, and Brandon Silvers, I think, is going to be a good quarterback. He needs some more play, needs to figure out this system. It was a wet, sloppy, terrible game it was a fun game to watch, but it was a sloppy game on Saturday. I think he needs to work on some fundamental things, but all in all, I think he's going to be a good quarterback. He's a gunslinger once he figures this thing out. Didn't look good. Looked all right at times the first game against DC, and then the wheels kind of fell off a little bit later. I think he'll be okay, serviceable. Now let's go ahead and let's move down to Erin Murray. Again, why I'm so upset? Because the fact of the matter is I'm not an Erin Murray guy, but I feel like I've got to defend the guy. I looked at it. I looked at the stats. When they talked about him going in and getting his ankle looked at and stuff because he got hurt. Okay, so he gets hurt in this game. Okay, we're going to try to give him a pass. And I will say, the first drive or so, he looked really good, and he knows it. He made a stupid play, was trying to force the ball there in the back of the end zone and made a stupid play. Now, if we want to contend and say that the rest of the game he was playing injured and hurt and it was affecting his play, we'll see this week. Hopefully he'll be back out on the field because he's going to be a better option than Cornelius. I think Flowers needs a shot there because I think that if they can put this offense around Flowers, I think that they might do something there. But I think that maybe Erin Murray could be serviceable here. I don't know. But again, you've got a guy who has not been on Erin Murray, and now I feel like I've got to defend him because of all of these national pundits that are out here saying that the XFL needs better quarterback play. And I'm not necessarily disagreeing in some places, but I'm also saying that obviously you're not paying attention to the guys that are playing because there is some good quarterback play happening there and not just from one or two guys. About half of the starting quarterbacks are good playing quarterbacks, and I just went through and named them all. The other one we're not talking about is Connor Cook. The fact of the matter is what we've seen so far and what Houston has had, Connor Cook needs to be starting for one of these teams. He could be starting easily for New York, or he could be starting in Tampa Bay and probably in Seattle. But he is probably one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the league, and he's not playing. He's sitting the bench because he's behind the dynamic PJ Walker, and the man is just amazing watching him on the field. And so as I'm going through this, I'm like, I'm just getting all upset because it's based upon all of this stuff of what they're saying and all of these talk shows and all these sports stuff is all of this hearsay garbage and some of it's based in reality of where we're at. No, these guys are not NFL players. And can we live in a world where everything isn't the NFL? I feel like every time we talk about the XFL, there's always that dude or that guy that's saying, well, it's not the NFL. I mean, these aren't NFL caliber quarterbacks. And you really need to look at that. Have you watched some of the NFL quarterbacks? Trust me, I live in a region in an area where the games when I would turn on CBS are the Browns. And then let's watch something different. So I'm going to turn to Fox and I'm watching the Lions. Neither one of them for a very, very long time had any good quarterback play. And trust me, I've watched enough football to know that the NFL, they've got bad quarterbacks too. So you can't just come out here and say that. and put that out there. And the fact of the matter is these guys are guys who need reps. And thankfully, there are a few of these national pundits out there saying, listen, guys, you need to step back. It's only been 2 weeks. You need to get off it. And he, and a couple of them explain, listen, the defenses are always ahead of the offenses regardless. It takes the offense a while to go, and the last position to really fall into place to put all the pieces together are the quarterbacks. Give these guys a break. They're trying to figure out this new league. And see, that's the thing with me. It's a new league. They're all worried about not scoring this and that. They're scoring touchdowns. They're just not scoring the 2-point, the try after points. And so what's happening is they're, score 4 touchdowns. Well, if you're only scoring 6 points every 4 touchdowns, you're only getting 24 points. You're not getting the full complement of points that you would normally get out of that. Again, we're only in the second week. So as I'm looking at these things, I'm like, this is ridiculous. And the thing is it sounds like amateur sports talk radio because none of them have done their research. I mean, I'm listening to a show, and I've got a guy telling me that the XFL really needs to not try to mimic the NFL because they're never going to be that because they don't have the talent. What they need to do is they need to really change their game and really focus on running backs. What in the world? Have you had your head under the rock for like the last 15, 20 years? The day of the running back... Granted, running backs, you still need them, and there's a big deal for running in the game of football. But listen, this is not where you line up in the I formation anymore, and you give a guy the ball 30 times in a game. We've got a couple of those. You got your anomalies. You got your Derrick Henrys. You've got your Ezekiel Elliott's, guys who can carry the ball. Now Zeke, they've got enough weapons around to where I don't know if I would be giving Zeke the ball 30 times, but 20 times a game. I mean, that's what you're going to do. You have a few guys like that. Most of the teams aren't going to do that. The game has changed, and to do that is archaic and stupid, and it's going to take you back to exactly what the XFL doesn't want to do. And if you've been paying attention to the XFL and the model that they've been putting out there is fast-paced gameplay. They're wanting to make it dynamic and fast. And there's nothing about focusing on the running game, ground and pound, that is fast other than the clock moving faster. There's nothing more boring than that to most fans. Now, I know that there are guys out there that love that. Excuse me, I'm a former running back. I love the running game. But I can tell you, I don't want to watch a game where a guy slams into the line 30 times on both sides. That's not what I want to watch. The XFL knows what they're doing. They're putting out a good brand, and these guys are having to talk about it. And they're not prepared, they're not ready, and it shows. They're having to put this stuff out there. They're talking about these things, and they're talking about how these guys don't have stars. They need to get stars if they're going to play in this league and to do this. And I'm like, guys, have you been watching any of it at all? And, another thing, too, is they're like, well, they've only got one 300-yard passer. Well, when you look at it, they've got a running clock for most of the game. The way that things are set up, it's only the second week, so defenses are a little bit ahead of the offenses. And when you look at it, the clock doesn't stop as much. You're not going to get as many opportunities to really sling the ball like you would. Now, granted, the 25-second clock, but when you look at it, the games are they're still taking around 3 hours to complete a game. But in actual gameplay, they're down about 20-25%. Well, if you lose 20-25%, guess what? That gets us about to where we're at. Most of the quarterbacks are throwing around 200, 250 yards, somewhere around in there. That's kind of where the good quarterbacks have been throwing. And when you look at the quarterbacks, that in the NFL, if you add 25% to that, that gets you up around your 275, 300. And the other thing is like you just had a guy throw 5,000 yards this past season. Jameis Winston, the guy threw 30 33, I think it was 33 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. 30 interceptions, threw over 5,000 yards this past season. So as I'm looking at this, I'm like, don't even go there with me on the quarterback play yet. And again, it's only been 2 weeks. Now, the other elephant in the room that's really driving me nuts, and I'm sorry, I'm rambling, and I probably have covered things multiple times just to get to my points, but I'm just frustrated with this thing. Can't we have another league besides the NFL? Good night. Everything is NFL this, NFL that. Well, the NFL, well, of course they are. They've got the money, they've been around longer, and they've got all the players. They're hoarding all the guys with any type of experience. That's what they're doing. The thing that they're not talking about is that there are a lot of guys in the NFL that probably could start or play in the NFL if they had a shot. And this is to all of you college football players out there. I want to give you a little bit of advice. If you're a fringe guy and you're like a second or third or fourth round pick type of guy, and your decision is whether or not to come out or stay in school and play one more season, look at guys like Jeffrey Okudah. I'm looking at guys like that who have helped their draft stock. He went from a guy that's probably like a second or third round, maybe fourth round guy, to where he is going to be a top pick in the first round. What does that mean? That means one, more money for you. Yes, but the other thing is that what comes with more money is that means that teams are more invested in you. They're going to give you more shots. They're going to give you more leeway. They're going to put more into you to develop you. Let's transfer that now to a quarterback. So when I take a guy like Baker Mayfield and I take him in the first round with the first pick, I've got a lot invested in him. I've got not only a high draft pick, but I've got a lot of money that I'm paying him. So if I'm doing that, I'm going to do the best that I can to try to make sure that this guy succeeds, as opposed to a guy I pick up in the fifth round who has a lot of the same talents, but I'm not really as committed to because it has nothing to do with talent. I just have more invested in my first round pick. So when I look at those things, and when you look at those things, I finally had a couple of guys, again, who are honest and said, listen, these guys are NFL talent. They just need developed. And I think that I would say that a majority of those guys have the talent to play in the NFL. A couple things haven't happened. One, they haven't either figured the game out. They haven't figured it out up here, what needs to happen, or two, they're just lacking something and they'll never get that. But if those guys who are kind of lacking the experience, and I don't mean like that they're dumb. I mean that they haven't figured out how the pro game works because they haven't got reps. They haven't figured out how it works in there. All they've done is this practice stuff over and over and haven't got a chance to show their athleticism like a PJ Walker, being able to get out on the field and show what you can do dynamically. And the team doesn't have anything invested in you, they can easily write you off. And that's what's happened with a lot of these guys. And two, what's happened too is we've got a lot of these football players who are on futures contracts. So for the XFL, you probably have another group of guys that legitimately could start in the XFL. Probably, I would say, anywhere between a half a dozen, probably more than that, to upwards of a dozen quarterbacks who are on futures contracts. Again, I haven't looked at these in a while, so I don't know. It could be more than that. But you've got guys who are on these futures contracts who, with the NFL, that the NFL doesn't want to let go. Whatever team that be, they don't want these guys to go because they got talent that they want, but they're just paying them enough to keep them from going anywhere else and also going to the XFL. So that's keeping the XFL from bringing in players. Now, let's go ahead and let's talk about the other thing with the XFL is paying players money. I don't know what they're paying these tier one quarterbacks, guys like Cardell Jones, PJ Walker, Landry Jones, Josh Johnson, those type of guys. I don't know what they're paying them, but I will agree with some guys that if they want talent at the quarterback position. They're going to have to, in these next couple years, pony up. However, I will say if the XFL keeps doing things the way they are, they keep putting out games like last Sunday night's game, and they can develop some of these guys and really keep us interested in the product, keep the gambling up, keep the viewership up, keep people talking about the XFL, which, again, all of the business model stuff and everything has been fantastic. The gameplay's been good. Week 1 was really fun. Had some low spots. Week 2 was fun. It had some low spots. But if they can just keep it fun, entertaining football that keeps us watching to the end, they're going to make money. And they're going to have money come the second, third season to pay these guys, to bring these guys up. I'm just sick and tired of this. It's NFL or nothing or bust. Or you've got to beat the NFL. You've got to have better talent than the NFL. Why can't we just have a league that is what it is? It's the XFL. They're going to be what they are. They're going to pull in the players that they are and let them just do their thing. Quit trying to throw them under the bus or make them the NFL or try to, get it. I get it. You're going to compare the best. You're going to pair whatever you got to the best. I get that. But I just don't understand why we can't have both. Listen, my favorite dessert is a chocolate chip cookie. But let me ask you, am I going to turn down a brownie? Heck no. I'm going to eat both of them. You better believe it. My plate's going to have brownies on it. My plate's going to have chocolate chip cookies on it. And I'm going to enjoy both of them. Which one's my favorite? Chocolate chip cookie, hands down. But listen, in this scenario, I don't have to choose. In this scenario, we don't have to choose NFL or XFL. We could just choose football. And I can just choose to have dessert. And I'm going to have both. And in this, if you want, you can have both. Quit trying. I don't understand this. And if you don't want any more football, that's fine. Turn your TV off if that's what you want to do. But if you want more football, quit complaining. Watch it. It's not bad. All the play around the players, they've been fantastic. Athletes have been able to be athletes, and it's shown on the field. And good night. I've gone on for 20 minutes or so about this topic, and when I wanted to get into breaking down some game film and some other things like that, but I just feel like I had to get on here and I got to defend quarterbacks that I don't even really, I'm not really even high on myself, but I just don't think that it's that bad yet, and we need to throw in the gosh dang towel, or that the XFL needs better quarterback play. I've looked at the stats. Some of them are pretty bad. But I've also looked at NFL stats after 2 weeks, and some of them are pretty bad. It just is one of those things. It's early on in the season. Guys are going to figure it out. I will say we've had some really, really good quarterback play, which we did not have in the AAF. And that's one of the other things that kind of tick me off, is you keep comparing it to the AAF, thinking it's exactly the AAF, and it's not. Majority of these players did not play in the AAF. Now, granted, a lot of them did, and a lot of them we do know were big names in the AAF, are big names in the XFL, but not quarterbacks. The only ones you got looking at you are Erin Murray, and Brandon Silvers are really your only two guys. That's really about it. Especially out of the starter guys. You got a couple other guys who are on teams in that with it, but. So as I'm looking at it, we need to pump the brakes, and people need to just pay attention and have a little bit more information about what you're talking about. Because I'll admit it. There are things that I don't know. But I'm going to come out here and tell you that. I mean, I don't know all of these players, and I tell you that. Some of them are new to me. But when you come out with the arrogance that you have, and you don't know what you're talking about, and you're just blowing smoke because XFL is trending. Believe it or not, the XFL is trending, and people are watching stuff about the XFL. That's the whole reason why my channel has over 1,000 subscribers. I know that. I'm okay with it. So, just take a little bit more time and see the product. Let the product develop. And I think in the end, everything will work out. And I think you'll actually end up with better quarterback play than what you think. Like I said, just a little frustrated with the stuff, and so I figured I'd let my frustrations out on camera. What the heck? Let the whole world know, or the few of you guys that enjoy my videos, and I really do appreciate having you guys here. All right, so I will definitely be back to the normal videos coming up here in the week. We got some stuff going on. We've got we got to break down our power rankings yet, and then we're going to get into our go ahead and do our previews, and I'll try to get all that stuff out here in the next day or so. So you guys who do your day drafting, you can go ahead and have that information as well. All right. Well, I'm losing wind, and yeah. So love to hear what you guys have to think about the topic down in the comment section. Like I said, I went on a little bit of a rant, but I felt like I needed to. So love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section. All right. Well, I know that you're busy, and I know that I'm busy, so let's get on out of here. You have a good night.